Was it an Igbo coup?
No, it was not an Igbo coup. It was not. And the answer is self-evident. Among the majors that carried out that coup, a principal actor was Major Adewale Ademoyega, a graduate of history from the University of London. He was one of the ideological foundations of that action. He and Major Emmanuel Ifajuna, who also was a graduate who read sciences at the University of Ibadan. They were the ideological bastions of that action. So you couldn't have an Igbo coup where one of the leaders was a Yoruba man. Out of 5 officers, they are known, Ifajuna, Major Nzogu, Major Okafor, Major, what's his name? This guy who was killed in the counter-coup. So about 5 majors, and you had that Major Adewale, and you had lieutenants who were of other ethnic groups, including Atong Pera, who was from the north. But
hello, welcome. My name is Rudolf Okonkwo, and welcome to 90 Minutes Africa. Before his new autobiography came out, A Journey in Service, our guest today wrote the most authentic biography of General T. Yo Aguiyi-Ironsi, called Ironsi, The Army, Power, and Politics. He has extensive knowledge of the Nigerian military and the institutions that produced the likes of Ibrahim Babangida, Yakubu Gowon, Sani Abacha, and others. Chuks Iloegbunam is the author of several notable books, including the biographies of Aguiyi-Ironsi, Chukwuemeka Ojukwu, Peter Obi, and others. He has had a distinguished career in journalism with The Guardian, Newswatch, West Africa Magazine, Vanguard, and so many others. In 2006, he became the special advisor to Governor Peter Obi of Anambra State. He later served as his chief of staff. We are honored to have in the studio with us the veteran journalist, Mr. Chuks Iloegbunam. Welcome to the show.
thank you very much.
We're very happy to have you. When we scheduled you for this interview, we didn't know that what the nation will be talking about today will be the book by Ibrahim Babangida. So we are starting the conversation from that point. So let me ask you, have you read the book, any part of the book, or have you heard what is being discussed in social circles and media?
Yes, I've read some of the comments that have appeared in social media, but I haven't read the book itself.
So what do you make of what you're hearing?
What I make of it is that the book is being received with mixed reactions, which is natural. You can't have a book that is loved by all or a book that is hated by all. But I will just quickly add that whatever commentaries you are hearing or reading today could at best be tentative, because most of the commentators have not read the entire book. It's not as if it's not valid to pass comments on portions of what you have read, but if you want to have a wholesome viewpoint, you have to be doing so from the totality of the contents of the book in question.
So when you get a chance to read it, what are you looking forward to hearing? What are the parts that you are interested in knowing what he will say?
Yes, I want to know what he said about June 12th, and I'll tell you the reason for that. I published the book called The Tale of June 12th by Professor Omo Omori about 20 years ago. That book discussed the coup in totality. So I know what that book contains, Omori's book. So, and he was General Babangida's main man, whether military or civilian. The book states it, and the book was published more than 20 years ago. And Babangida has read the book. He didn't doubt it. That's one question. Two, I'd like to know what he said about Dele Giwa, because I was on the staff of Newswatch when Dele Giwa was killed with a parcel bomb. I'd want to know what he says about the entire question of the aberration of military rule. I would like to say what he said about the structural adjustment program, things like that.
Now, the number one issue that is trending out there is his opinion about the coup of 1966, the January 15th coup. He wrote, I don't have it in front of me, but he wrote that he does not believe that the coup is what people say is an Igbo coup. I know that you've talked about it in several interviews. Were you surprised that Babangida could say that or write that?
No, I'm not surprised, because it's not the first time he's saying that. He has said that before. If you look at page Roman numerals 12 of my Ironsi book, what he said then was quoted there. And if you permit me, I'll just read it. It's not a long thing. It says,
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Babangida said, General Ironsi was killed for advocating a unitary system of government in Decree number 34, the Unification Decree. He meant well. In fact, that decree was promulgated for the preservation of Nigeria as an entity. Unfortunately, some Northerners interpreted it to be a means for the Igbo, after January 15, 1966 revolution, to further take over the entire affairs of the nation. General Ironsi was a man who saw tomorrow. He wanted Nigeria united in accordance with the military command tradition, and it was probably never intended to facilitate any form of domination. Interestingly, even today, we are still struggling to remain united as one. This is what Babangida said about at least 8 years ago. But I mean, it wasn't in the newspapers as such, but he said it. So that gave me a foreknowledge of his viewpoint. So I'm not surprised that he now came to speak the truth, because I already knew the truth. I wrote it in my Ironsi book. The first edition came out 24 years ago. This one that you have now, the one that says Ironsi, Nigeria, the army, power and politics, came out about 4 years ago. So I always knew the truth. When the first edition came out in about 24 years ago, I took copies, one each, to General Gowon and General Theophilus Danjuma, and told them to debunk anything I wrote there, because the book was based on research. And as I told you, as I've always said, you couldn't have a coup with the purpose of objective of Igbo domination, intending to insert in power a Yoruba politician. It wasn't possible. And then the names of non-Igbo participants in the coup are open knowledge. But it was just in the interest of those who distort history for personal purposes, for their designs, to keep telling the lies. Even with Babangida's position today, people will continue to insist that it was an Igbo coup. It will not change.
Why is that?
Why it is so is simple. The story itself has an objective: to perpetuate the hatred of Ndibo and concretize their marginalization. If you remember, Chinua Achebe said in The Trouble with Nigeria that about the only thing in which the rest of Nigeria has a consensus is their antipathy towards Ndibo. The coup was not an Igbo coup. There were Igbo victims of the coup. But it was in the best interest of those who wanted to subjugate Ndibo to continue to deny those facts. I'll tell you something I was told. General Gowon and Lieutenant Colonel Arthur Chinyelu Unegbe were the best of friends. They were cohorts. They attained their majority, their lieutenant colonel status at the same time. So much so that when Colonel Unegbe wedded, his best man was Colonel Gowon. But Gowon allowed the lie to be told and repeated from his biography written by Professor Elagu, saying that Unegbe was from Midwest State, was from Delta State. But Gowon knew where the guy came from. He was his bosom friend. So those lies have continued. But lies, whatever you tell that is a lie, will be busted with the passage of time. It's a law of nature, not my own concoction.
Now, in the introduction to the book, Babangida wrote that a lot of people form opinions about what happened in history without knowledge, the knowledge of what actually happened. Do you think how do you think we can get to a point where we can actually agree on certain aspects of our history, the Nigerian history, especially the lead to the Civil War, that coup of 1966?
Well, it's by people airing their opinions. And mind you, whether the opinion is negative or positive does not really matter at the end of the day. What matters is that whatever is in the public space will be subjected to thorough forensic analysis by people who are rational. In other words, the more of the stories of January and, by the way, July 1966 are told, the better it will be for the creation of the proper history, contemporary history of Nigeria. So that forward that General Gowon wrote, someone sent it to me. I have read it, and Gowon was saying that people should write to be leaders of this country. People who have played roles in it should write so that those who were not participants will learn. So I said to him, physician, heal thyself. Write your own. Let us hear it from you. Let us hear it from General Danjuma. Do not say it is good to write when you threw away your own pen. Pick up your pen and write. We'll all learn.
So I know that you wrote about Ironsi, and we want to dive into that a little bit. Tell us, what is the general misconception of Ironsi that you discovered while you were researching your book?
The main point about him by his traducer was that he was a non-entity and a tribal bigot. So my research proved otherwise. Ironsi was not recruited by Nigerians into the army. He enlisted when the British colonialists were in charge. He rose through the rank and he was found worthy of going for officer training. He went to the UK, passed the examinations, and received his PIPs as a lieutenant colonel. He was commissioned an officer. He continued to rise to become the topmost Nigerian military officer with the rank of Major General. Those were not promotions affected or effectuated by Nigerians or by Nnamdi Kanu or by Mbonu Ojike or by Uzumbambadiwe. So you wouldn't say that those were tribal promotions. No, they were not. He earned those promotions. He went to the Congo during the crisis there on behalf of the United Nations. And he acquitted himself creditably there. It wasn't because of tribalists promoting him. He achieved all those things, but what they said was that he was a drunkard. He didn't know his left from his right, and he was just pushing Igbo domination. In my book, I listed his own appointments, the permanent secretaries, his members of the Supreme Military Council, the Federal Executive Council. None of these Igbos were in the minority. This is the truth. But they changed the course of history simply because it helps their sinister motive of keeping down a people who are wholly innocent. That's what I found about him, and I debunked it. And whoever reads the book can conduct their own research, and they'll come to the same conclusion as I did.
So who were the people who were pushing that narrative about Ironsi? Do you know?
Their books are there. They, 50, let me say 70% of these pushers of the false narrative were the white colonialists. You had them, Clark, Moffat, Green. They were writing all kinds of nonsense, fiction, to amplify the views of the section of the country that they believed will forever be in control of the entity. That's what happened. It is obvious.
Now, a lot of people have talked about this January 15th coup in so many ways, but somehow because Babangida now weighed in, it's getting some traction at some quarters where it wasn't before. There was this issue about the people that crushed the coup. Babangida mentioned it in his book. I know that you've mentioned it in several interviews. Why is it difficult for people to accept that the people that crushed the coup were from the same area that they said were the people who planned the coup and wanted to dominate?
If you have animus against a human being, if they are singing a good song, you would say that they are croaking like a frog. So once you have that hatred for the Igbo, what it means is that whatever good thing is said about them, you will not buy it. It's not that the truth is not there. The truth is there. I even went as far as getting the Cameroonian major who led the troops deployed by General Ironsi to go after the coup makers in Lagos Island. The man is even still alive now, about 89 years. He's still in Cameroon. He said, I was the person who led the troops. It wasn't General Gowon. It wasn't Gowon because Gowon had no command. All those truths are there, and people who are honest to themselves know it.
Mm.
There was no notable army officer from the north that played any significant role in quelling the coup. And mind you, the Nigerian army of today is not the same thing as the army of 1966. Today, you have over 40 major generals. At that time, there was no lieutenant general, there was no general, there was only one major general, and then there were 3 brigadiers. Now, of the lieutenant colonels or colonels, only about 5 were from the entire north. Kuru Muhammadu, Zakaria Maimelari, James Yakubu Pam, Abogo Lagema, Yakubu Gowon, who were lieutenant colonels or brigadier in the case of Maimelari. But of the Igbo country, you had many lieutenant colonels. Those people were not promoted by Nigerians. Those people earned their promotions when the colonialists were in charge. You had Lieutenant Colonel Mzefiri, Lieutenant Colonel Okwechime, Lieutenant Colonel Mora, Lieutenant Colonel Madiebu, Lieutenant Colonel Anguna, and many others. Now, if you came to those with a majority, the majors, in 1966, January 1966, there were 40 majors. Of those 40 majors, 25 were Igbo. 25. Their names are there. Now, this coup happened. Of these 25, 20 majors did not participate in the coup. Not one Igbo lieutenant colonel participated in the coup. So when you have all those things happening, how can you go and turn around and say it was an Igbo coup? If it was an Igbo coup, it would have succeeded. Nothing would have stopped it. It would have been a walkover because they were in charge of most things at that time.
So can you briefly address the issue of why in the south east, the eastern region, the coup appeared to have failed or nobody was killed? Because that's one of the sticky points that people point at to say that it was an intentional plan to spare the people from the southeast and kill other people in other regions. Was that a plan of the coup plotters?
I'll answer that question by pointing out to you that in 1966, I was in, I think, my second year in secondary school, and I was in Kanu. I wasn't even where the coup actions were taking place. But I read books about it. I listened to interviews about it. And I read Ademoyega. I read Boulier. I read Ifeanyi's manuscript too. I read it, which has not been published up to today. They said that Major Louis Chudisoke, he was from Onitsha. He died as a lieutenant colonel in Biafra, was to lead the operation in the east, but had to go to India on a course. That's one thing. He had postponed going to India to the point that he was about to begin to raise eyebrows, then he left. The second person who was to carry out that coup in that east was not of enough seniority in the army to really push things. If you read Major General Ejo's book, Reminiscences, on his years in the army and in office, he mentioned that there were actions there in Enugu. That's one of those points that the key person who was to lead the operation there wasn't there due to no fault of his own. Secondly, that there was visiting Enugu at that time Archbishop Macarius of Cyprus. And because of that, they didn't want to create international complications by going for him, going for Michael Opera, who was the premier, and then getting him as a collateral damage. That is what they said. And that is what I give to you. Now, it is possible, and it has happened many times, to organize a coup without killing people. It is a possibility. It's happened over and over again. I can't see myself relishing or celebrating the story of people murdered because you want to affect the change of government. But that's the way it was told to me, and I am waiting for contrary opinion on that.
What about Azikiwe, Nnamdi Azikiwe? How did he escape?
The man was not in the country at the time.
Was it intentional? Was it coincidental, or how did that happen? Do you know?
I wasn't in their government. He said, yes, I wasn't there. He said he was abroad on leave and all the rest of it. Some other people said, no, he must have been tipped off. After all, he was from Onitsha, and Ifajina was from Onitsha. And he may have gone to his uncle and said, oh, God, just take off. Oh. I do not know. I wasn't there. But those are the stories told.
Okay. Now, the counter-coup that happened where Ironsi was killed, remind our audience who may not know, who were the people involved in the planning of that coup and the execution?
As far as I'm concerned, the leader of that coup was a certain Lieutenant Colonel Yakubu Gowon. I said it in my book. Some people say it's Muritala Mohammed, Major Mohammed. Some people say it's Danjuma, and all the rest of it. That's not true. For me, for my own research, the person that led the coup, at least by his own seniority, by his not preventing it, by not reacting to quell it, was Yakubu Gowon. He was in Lagos. Lagos was the capital. Where was he from the time the coup started at Abuja about 9 p.m. till dawn of the following day when Ironsi was handcuffed with telephone wires with perjury and driven to where they were shot? Where was he? What did he do? He phoned, according to the book by Lindsay Barrett's biography of Yaratiwa Danjuma. He phoned the government house in Ibadan, and Danjuma picked it up. And he asked Danjuma what he was doing there. I said they have come to arrest the head of state. And Gowon said, can you do it? And he said, yes, they have surrounded the house. and go and say, okay, go ahead, but make sure there's no bloodshed. What do you make of that? The chief of army staff saying, can you seize the supreme commander? Go ahead and make sure it's not bloody. The story doesn't add up. There were other people who were in the coup. Danjuma claims it was a spontaneous action. That is false. That is false because General Jeremiah Husseini, who died last month or so, revealed in an interview he granted, which the transcript of which I published in my book, that they were planning it over many months. That the planning took place over many months. He was stationed at Ibadan at the time. How could a coup be planned over many months and Yakubu Gowon didn't know about it in Ibadan there? How can that be?
Okay, there was this other sticky point in terms of after Ironsi was killed, who should take over? What is the actual story? There is this story that Ojukwu and Gowon, that their issue started when Ogundipe, who was the most senior, did not take over, and Ojukwu refused to take orders from Gowon. What do you know about that?
What I know about that is that at the time the argument was going on, it had become even academic, because once a junior officer told Brigadier Ogundipe that he doesn't take orders from him, Ogundipe fled. So even if they had said, come and take over, by then the man was in a ship, and before he knew it, he was in England, where he ended up as a high commissioner. He was no longer there. This is true. This has happened. Because, discipline had broken down. If you have an army without discipline, you couldn't reasonably or sensibly call it an army. It was, at that point, there was a lot of chaos. So the man ran for his dear life. Of course, Ojukwu talks about hierarchy, people taking positions according to their seniority. When Flight Lieutenant Jerry Rawlings took over power in Ghana, he was just a captain. Flight Lieutenant was captain. By then you had generals there, air vice marshals, and all the rest of if you have the guns, you are the general de facto. So the question of whether you will see that this man will take over power, which man will not take over power, is academic. If you don't have the guns before you and you go and sit on the throne, a bullet will remove you from there. That's the truth.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, so where we are now is that coup happened, the counter-coup, and a lot of officers were killed, and Gowon took over. What followed? Is the personal relationship between Gowon and Ojukwu a factor in what led to the war? What do you think led to the breakdown of that communication and then people going to war?
For me, the major crisis that led to the war started from the different interpretations given to the Aburi Accord. That was what caused it. Even before Aburi, Gowon and Ojukwu were in communication. Otherwise, how did they get to tell him to fly over to Ghana for the summit? It's not as if they weren't talking, but everybody had his own position. Now they got to Ghana. talked over 2 days. They reached an agreement to which voluntarily they all appended their signatures. The document is still there. The voice recording of their deliberations is still there. When they came back here, Gowon reneged on the agreement. That
Why?
was complete. Why should you ask me? Why should you ask me why Gowon took a decision? Am I his mentor?
No, I wanted to know whether you found out why he did it.
Why he did it? If you said, well, people have all kinds of opinions on the matter. Some said that if he carried out the agreement, he would have led Nigeria into a confederal system of government, which would be one step away to secession for Ojukwu. But Ojukwu said that in all their deliberations, the word confederation never came in. So people advised Gowon, especially the civil servants that went with him, do not go ahead with the accord. That is the truth. One of these days, most of those who went to the Aburi summit are dead now. It does seem as if it's only General Gowon that remains of all those people, even the permanent secretaries like Solomon Akenzwa, who became a Oba of Benin, is long gone. His son is on the throne. Like Timothy Omabare of the police, he is gone. They're all gone. It's just about Gowon that remains among those officers who went to Aburi for that celebration. But even if they all perished, there's nobody who is not going to go at their own appointed time. The documents are there. It's only among the people who live a life of let's pretend that you will see the basic truth and you continue to deny it. There was an agreement reached in Ghana. It is documented. They all signed up to it, and they came back and they did differently. That's for me what led directly to the shooting war. Yeah.
Okay. So let's move a little bit further away from that period in history. And Gowon was overthrown by Murtala Mohammed. Where were you when that happened?
I was in Lagos.
I
was a clerk in some ministry.
Okay. So what was the mood? Do you remember? Because we read that during the first coup that people all over the country were celebrating. You said you were in Kano when that happened, in Zogu coup.
Yes.
Were people truly celebrating the coup and the one of Murtala Mohammed? How was it received?
In Kano, we lived in Savongeri. That's just a small portion of the whole of Kano metropolis. I didn't know what was happening elsewhere. And I don't even know the level of celebration then. When Gowon was overthrown, where the Ministry of Finance, where Alhaji Shehu Shagari was the Federal Commissioner of Federal Ministry. What I remember is that once it was announced, we were hearing the voice of Colonel Joe Garba. There was widespread panic and people were running, entering buses, their vehicles, and fleeing the island. That's what I remember. And also, later that evening, I knew that there were people who were celebrating. Some politicians were celebrating because Gowon had postponed the original date he gave for handover of power. Some of them were celebrating because even when Gowon came to power, they never welcomed him. Gowon is not from the far north, even if he was born in Sasazaria. Gowon is also a Christian, and there were people who didn't believe that the mantle of leadership should fall on him. So there were also celebrations in that department. And mind you, there is something called celebration, and there is another thing called hysteria. A lot of people who celebrate instant developments do not know where they are going to until their eyes clear. So you could be celebrating today. It's just like Chelsea was playing football yesterday and they scored the first goal and their supporters were celebrating. And then the other opposing team equalized. And at the end of to the tail end, they defeated Chelsea. I'm not for these instant celebrations. For instance, I'm not celebrating Babangida's book and I'm not condemning it. All I would say is that it is positive that he wrote because we must hear from those who acted on the national stage. Then I would know whether I should celebrate or declaim the book. I'm going to review the book after I have read it. So the celebrations that went on when Gowon was overthrown, I remember I was huddled by one transistor radio. Mind, it's not that time of you have these digital things and telephones and the man was speaking that all the world is a stage and everyone has his exits and entrances. And then I say they were mocking him, saying he was quoting Shakespeare and all the rest of it. But later on, some people discovered that Kakino be leather.
So let's go back to Babangida. By this time, we're talking about 1975. He has started showing up in Nigerian history and Nigerian stories. We had the story of him going to, we're talking about Murtala Mohammed now. We had the story of him going to stop Dimka at the radio station when Dimka killed Mohammed. What do you know about that we don't know? Most people don't know in that story. Was Babangida
about Babangida?
Yes, the role he played.
Well, although I was in Lagos at the time, I wasn't anywhere around Dodan Barracks. What I know is that there are two accounts to the story. There was the account in which we also published in Newswatch magazine where I worked, where he went there and disarmed Timka and all the rest of it and crushed the coup attempt. That's one of the stories. There's another story told by General Yakubu Danjuma, Theophilus Yakubu Danjuma, who said it wasn't true. And that by the time Monitalam got, by the time Babangida got there, Dinka was in a drunken stupor and his attempt had actually collapsed. Danjuma is still alive. That's what he said. I read it myself.
So why didn't Babangida arrest Dimka if he was in that state?
That's what he's going to have to answer to himself, why he didn't arrest him or why he didn't shoot him dead even. I'm not ever going to allow myself to speak for people who can speak for themselves. I'm not a professional spokesman.
I'm just saying as a researcher and a person who covered most of these events. So let's go back to move forward to when Babangida now became the president, or the coup of the coup that removed Shagari. Where were you?
I was in Lagos.
As a journalist?
Yes.
Okay. So what did you report? What was the story about that coup that removed Shagari and put in Buhari?
The coup that removed Shagari if I remember clearly, was informed by a lot of negative press that Shagari received. And people thought that those people who removed him and their supporters thought that he wasn't pulling his weight. But if you look back now, you'll see that these soldiers should please remain in their barracks, because when everything is total, the benefits of military administrations are not encouraging at all. So they removed him, and Buhari became head of state. They really locked him up and they put him in house arrest, and they put Ekwueme in prison, and they gathered many other people, including Ojukwu, and detained them. That's what happened.
Okay, we have a lot to cover, but let me quickly get to Dele Giwa. You were at Newswatch when he was killed. What do you know about that incident that we don't know, or that a lot of people are confused about what happened?
Well, when you talk about Dele Giwa, two things immediately come to my mind. I had been on the staff of the Guardian newspapers, and then I applied to work for Newswatch magazine. The four heads of Newswatch were Dele Giwa, Rebu, Dana Bese, and Yakubu Mohammed. So they said, okay, they gave me a date for an interview, a job interview. On that day, I went for the interview. Dana Bese wasn't there. Rebu wasn't there. Yakubu Mohammed wasn't there. Only Dele Giwa. And I went to his office and I met him. And Dele said, Chuks, your interview is for tomorrow. I said, no, it's for today. He said, no. So I showed him the letter inviting me for the interview. And it was for that day. And then I said, Chuks, what's the interview about anyway? Don't we know you? How much are they paying you at the Guardian? I told him. He added something to it, and they tapped my letter, and I started work in Newswatch. I tell this story to say that, the man was my friend. I knew him even before Newswatch was set up. I knew them. I knew Yakub Mohammed was in the Concord. I knew Ray. Both of us were classmates at a master's program in MASSOB. So I knew all those people. They were my friends. That's one of the things I remember about Dele Giwa. The second thing was that it was the first anniversary of my wedding, October 19th. It was a Sunday. But we work, journalists, as you know, we work every day. I had to go to the office because I was going to write the next cover story. I got to Newswatch. I was in the library. At some point, a messenger came and said, Dele Olojode, and some other people, they were in Dele Giwa's office. I should come down there. I said, no, don't bother me. I'm working. Why should I go there? Still, they kept insisting. Then I came down. I went into Dele Giwa's office. I saw them sitting around there. And Dele Olojode called somebody in Concord and said, I want to tell you that Dele Giwa is dead. He was blown up by a parcel bomb about 2 hours ago. That's how I knew what was happening. I said, what are you guys talking about? And then we went to, they said he was taken to First Foundation Hospital in Ikeja. We went there. There was already a crowd there at the hospital. And I said, come and see where he's lying. From his neck down was covered up completely. And I said, thank God, this man didn't die. They said he was dead. He looked so peaceful. So as I was going away, a nurse, I said, please come and see. Don't go, come and say, why should I say, well, I've seen him. Why do you want me to say, please come? And he threw up the thing covering the, and from here, fire just burnt and just mangled the man's body completely. So I remember these two things each time they talk about Dele Giwa. We used to go partying in those days where things, where you fill their car tank with 5 naira, and there wasn't insecurity. You could drive about everywhere. So those were happy times until that kind of thing was introduced. So when you talk about him, I want to know, as I told you, I haven't read General Babangida's book. I hope it is that such chapter in our national history is discussed in the book. I would like to read that aspect, and then I will have my comments to make. But now I don't know what he said.
Yeah, more people who have read that part said he said he had nothing to do with that.
That he said so?
Yeah, he had nothing to do with that.
Okay, did those people say if you suggested those who had something to do with
it? No, that's why I want to ask you now. Did you, over the years that you were at, and I don't know how long you stayed at Newswatch after, have you turned up any investigative, story about what actually happened? Because we may not.
Those ones, the stories written were the stories written by Newswatch staff, and mind you, Newswatch staff or the Newswatch magazine, as far as I know, never pointedly accused Babangida of the assassination of Dele Giwa. It doesn't mean that he did it or that he did not do it. What it means is that in such a dispensation as we had at that time, common sense dictated caution. That's how it is. But I didn't go investigating what happened to him on a personal basis. And but there's a book I'll recommend, Born to Run by Dele and Onukaba. Two of these young journalists who wrote about a biography of Dele Giwa, and that will help people to piece facts together and draw their own conclusions. Maybe if I read what he said, I will be in a position to say, what about this angle? What about that angle? And all the rest of it. But not having read the book, I can't say. And I'm not in a hurry to call anybody a murderer or a non-murderer. But what I do know is that to kill a human being is not the same thing as to kill a fowl. And that in the ultimate, everybody pays their own dues.
Now, when you say you're not in a hurry, are you not worried that some of the actors...
I'm not in a hurry to do what?
You said you're not in a hurry to call anybody a murderer.
A murderer or non-murderer. Yes, I'm not.
I'm also thinking in terms of being able to get the accurate story. Are you not concerned that most of these stories we're talking about, you mentioned people who have died now, like the people at the Aburi conference. Are we not worried or that we may lose the opportunity to hear from some of the participants and maybe miss a vital part of the history?
I am worried that there are people who think that it's only those who are in Nigeria or only those who worked in Newswatch are to be, impelled to conduct research on what happened to Dele Giwa. That's where my worry lies.
Okay. All right. But you talked about, what about this angle? What about this angle? So there are angles. Can you briefly, maybe for those who may not know, what are the angles? I don't want to insinuate things, but what happens when there's vacancy, when there's vacuum, is that people fill it in with things that are not, maybe not credible. But that's all they walk out of, because they don't have any credible information. And we're talking about years now, more than 30 years.
Yeah, what I know is this. In conducting research, hate, speed is not the most essential element. The fact that it's taken about 30 years since it happened does not mean that one couldn't get to the bottom of the matter. Look at now, Babangida is talking about the January 1966 coup. It still resonates his story, and people are learning new lessons about it. So that even if the story comes up in 50 years' time, the truth will still come out. There's nothing that is, even today, there are people who are settled in their minds about most of these things. So that you say what you want to say, you write what you want to write, you pass any commentary that suits you, and they dig into their own positions and stay put there.
Okay, so I hear you. I understand that. But I think that's not a reason for us not to keep digging in and finding. I'm not saying it's your responsibility. I just wanted to know, as someone who
No,
was.
it is my responsibility, but I'm saying that it is not solely my responsibility. There are people who are in the US, in Russia, in Germany, in the Kalahari Desert, wherever they are, especially if they are Igbo, especially if they are Nigerians, can also investigate that. If you are doing a first degree or second degree or a doctorate degree in mass communication, you can go and investigate and say, what happened to this journalist? You see, people are still writing on George Washington. They're still writing about him. People are still writing about Jesus Christ and looking at his execution, crucifixion from different perspectives. It's never too late to search for the truth.
I hear you. Now, what changed in the media since the death of Dele Giwa?
Oh, the changes are enormous. When we were there, things were not digital. You were in the US, I'm in Nigeria, we were chatting. We didn't have this kind of communication, ease of communication. I remember when we were at the Punch, we were using what they called radio phone. There were about 3 women in Lagos, in the Lagos headquarters of the Punch. And in each of these outstations, there was a radio phone. When you press the button, it gives you way to speak. And they are using pencil and paper and pen to write it out. And then somebody goes and types it out. And then it is taken to the compographic machine. And all those ones done bafuka. They are no longer there. So everything is now automatic. We went to P.D. Jason's funeral years ago in his hometown near Owerri. By the time we finished, before we left the venue, we had Emeka Mama, one of our reporters, use his phone and write the story and send it to the Vanguard in Lagos, and it appeared the following morning. So those ones are there, they have changed. Also, you have now more educated people in the media industry, because you have, when in the initial stages, the first school of journalism was the Jackson School of Journalism in Nsukka, built by Nnamdi Kanu. When the Civil War started and the non-Eastern Nigerian students at Nsukka went back to Nigeria, they forced them to create the mass comm department of the University of Lagos. Now, every university has a mass comm department. Every college of technology has a mass comm department. So you have a surfeit of graduates of mass communication. Now, you have also seen that the newspaper now is no longer a matter of building. Everybody who has a smartphone is a newspaper publisher, editor, legal advisor, reporter, sub-editor. So there's a proliferation of journalism. It also means that there has been a devaluation of journalism. Now, people write what they like. People write deliberate falsehood. People spread deliberate misinformation. There's one character who attacks P2B every 24 hours. Most of the things the guy writes aren't nonsense. If it were in the days of the traditional newspaper, they would have sued the hell out of him. Now, it's almost as if there's some kind of shield or protection they have because they're using they're using social media. So it's just answering your question, what has changed? There's more, the boundaries of journalism has spread, but it has also led to a devaluation of the quality of media output. And there's this insidious poison of immorality, that you see in what people purport to be newspaper stories and articles today.
So I do hear from people on this platform who come and they have serious issues with the media. And when we bring in our audience, you get some questions about that. In terms of corruption in the media, people say that at this point that in Nigeria, people pay for stories to be in the media. How did you see the transformation along that line? Do you think the media is more credible now or less? I'm talking about the traditional media. I'm not talking about social media or and things like that.
I want you to bear something in mind. When people talk about corruption in the Nigerian media, they are not looking at the total picture. It's just like saying that a mango tree bearing fruits was felled, and you come out and you begin to say the fruits it was carrying, did they also fall? The problem of corruption in Nigeria is systemic. So you can't have a corrupt superstructure and then an incorrupt and incorruptible substructure. That's not the way things happen. The whole now well, if you talk about corruption, you just want to excite me for that, because listen, the policeman waiting for road there, they look you. If I'm going to travel from Onitsha to Oka, I will encounter at least 20 checkpoints. Some people now call them choke points. I have never seen any checkpoint where the bonnet or the boot of any car was touched. And openly, these policemen are there collecting money openly within their pocket. Even the road safety corps people, even the military. Listen, it is not because those characters are innately more corrupt than the rest of Nigerians. It is because the circumstances have pushed them to a point where the littlest resistance they could muster against the temptation of corruption has dissipated. This is what is happening. You can't go to seek admission from for your child now, without people asking you to pay this, pay that, pay this. That's why I say it's systemic. Let me give you an example. If you have a department of mass communication that has a place about 300 placements for the new intake, and those who are applying are 150, you're not probably to enter there. But when you have a mass comm department that wants only 20, that has space for only 20 admissions, and then the applicants are 200, people will begin to cut corners to find their way to gain admission. You want to fly, they say there's no more space, it's all fully booked. Whereas they are keeping about 4 seats, then you pay extra, a seat appears for you. All these things are systemic. It is not everybody who will behave like Dr. Tai Solari. Let me tell you why I mentioned him. He was the proprietor of Mayflower School, a unique secondary school. His daughter did not make admission. Dr. Tai Solari's daughter. He sent her to a different school. How many Nigerians will do it? Now, even if he did it, it was a one-man thing. What about other secondary schools? Who is going to do such things there? So to say journalists are taking money, a lot of these traditional journalists, they are not paying salaries. Won't they eat? Won't they put fuel in their car? In fact, most of them, they are working, they are food run and food watching that they are using now. I'm not supporting corruption, but I'm saying that we must understand the underlying factors that necessitate that. If you consider where you are in the United States, there, a state governor will think about it before he misappropriates state fund, because 9 times out of 10 he will be caught, and when he is caught, he'll be prosecuted and punished. His subordinates who discover that will report him, will blow the whistle on him. But in Nigeria, if you're a state governor, you split the state into and appropriate one, and nobody will say anything. They will be hailing you. That's why it's systemic. So let's not just scapegoat the journalists. They are not the only ones who are doing this thing.
Mm. All right, we'll take a break at this point. When we come back, we finish up talking about Peter Obi. You served under his government as chief of staff, and also we talk about Charles Soludo and how he's running Anambra State. If we have time, we will touch on the Biafran agitation, because I know when you were with Peter Obi, there were the actions of MASSOB, and now we have IPOB. And the case of Nnamdi Kanu and Simon Eba. So we touch on that, and then we let our audience join us in that conversation with you. So let's quickly take a break, maybe about 3-4 minutes, and then we'll come back with veteran journalist Chuks Iloegbunam. So thank you so much for watching, those who are watching us, and we'll be right back. Thank you, Chuks.
Thank you.
Okay. right, welcome back, everybody. We're having an interesting conversation this afternoon with veteran Nigerian journalist Chuks Iloegbunam. All right, so let's start with the era when you served the government of Anambra State under P2B. Did you notice during that time that P2B will become what it is today in Nigeria?
Yes, I would say that the signs were there because he was dedicated to his job, and if you have dedication in working for the public, it means that it could translate into other levels. But he didn't give any indication, and we never discussed anything about his future. We were concerned and concentrating on the present after that time.
So You were there during that time, and during the campaign, people paid attention to his era, the time he was governor of Anambra State. Was there anything that you were concerned about that people in the political arena were talking about that period that wasn't accurate?
They said many false things about him, and that was why I wrote his biography, the promise of a new era. I didn't discuss it with him. He didn't commission me to write it. But when I saw the way lies were flying up and down, I decided to sit down and write a book, and I did it. They told many blatant lies about him. They said, for instance, that Hero brew with this brew where they make Hero in Nigeria is his family business, and he put Anambra State money there. That's false. The parent company of that Hero, that brewery there, is South African, and he started talking about bringing them in even before he became governor. Because I was working with him, not on a formal basis, in Lagos when he was in the courts challenging Dr. Chris Ngige to regain his mandate. The talk for the brewery to be brought into Nigeria was already going on at that time. And today, Anambra State still collects its own dividends from that very profitable enterprise. So I had to debunk that. They said that he was chasing Muslims away. He didn't allow them to celebrate their religious festivals. They said that's not true. The PWB, I remember, was loading cows in trailers and sending to us to go and do this thing, to celebrate with them or wish them well during their celebrations. That he didn't do any such thing, And they said he had appropriated the whole state and put it into his own pocket. Well, where is the evidence? It's not to my knowledge. So that's why I wrote that book. Of course, you must understand what politics is. If you can't take the heat, you've got to get off the kitchen. They will tell you all sorts of stories. They will tell all sorts of stories about you. They will fabricate all kinds of falsehoods. And then if you want the truth, if you are appalled by that kind of misbehavior, then you try your best to see if you can put the record straight. That's why I wrote that promise of a new era. Now, I have been taking notes since after the last presidential election, so that in the next year or two, I'll bring back that book again in a larger form, more comprehensive, looking into other things that have happened since that time. I will do that. And I'm not relying on him. I didn't ask him for 1 naira. I didn't take permission from him. I didn't need to. I did it on my own volition. And I'm going to continue to do it.
Did he read the book?
If he didn't read it, that's his cup of tea. But I think I didn't write it for him to read it. I wanted the electorate to see the truth about the man being lied against. But I believe he must have read it.
Okay. Now, during the time that he was governor, he handled insecurity in Anambra State. How is that different from what Governor Charles Soludo is doing today?
It is different.
Yeah.
It is different in the sense that the circumstances have changed. We didn't have, at that time, these cases of kidnapping. No. We had armed robbery, of course. And, well, maybe some small kidnapping, but not this kind of wave of kidnappings every day. In fact, even my parish priest was kidnapped 10 days ago, released after 6 days. During most of it, he didn't eat anything except a bottle of Sprite given to him on the last day. So the circumstances were different. Now, if you want me to rationalize it, I will. Things have become more difficult. The jobless total is beyond computation. People are trying to see what they can do. So the innate criminality in a lot of people burst into the open. Sometimes they kidnap people, they ask for ransom, the ransom is paid, and the person is shot dead. You wonder what these guys are really doing. So when we were in government, there was a time I was going to walk from my village to Oka, returning late at night. There were times I was coming from Enugu, going back because we didn't have that fear of people kidnapping you. Things were not that terribly dangerous. I'm not saying there wasn't crime there. There was. In fact, about during our second month in office, the second month after P2B's inauguration as governor, one night, bandits besieged the Ukwoji area of Oka, where you have a concentration of all those banks, firing, attacking all those banks for upwards of 6 hours, unchallenged. But P2B dealt with it, stopped the nonsense, stamped on it, staunched it. Yes. And yeah.
Do you think that that Soludo is doing the best he could do?
Well, Soludo is pulling his own weight according to his own vision of how it should be tackled. You must understand that it's not easy. You are going to have to ask yourself, who do you trust? Who are the people working for you? Even now, the new outfit he set up, I've seen videos of them collecting money on the roads. You can see, you tell you that the man is in a very serious contention. It's not easy. There has been widespread proliferation of illegal arms and proliferation of legal arms. There are two different things, but they all boil down to arms in hand where you can find it. Who is supplying those arms? Where are those arms coming from? But we must get back to a cardinal point. There's insecurity in Anambra State. There's insecurity in other southeast states. There's also insecurity in various other parts of the Nigerian nation. If you want to cast blames, I'll ask you to start from Abuja, because Abuja controls the police force, Abuja controls the military, Abuja controls the civil defense, and all the rest of it. When you have made that point, you then begin to ask questions. Every day you put on your phone, you go to WhatsApp, you see images of people caught kidnapping or caught with involved in ritual murder and all the rest of it. Please point out, in the last, since Soludo came to power, how many of those cases have been prosecuted? There was the time they reported with fanfare a factory where they made this crystal meth, what they call Upulumiri. They caught Mexicans, they caught their people who brought them in, they arrested them. It was everywhere in the media, and that was the end. What happened to them? Was it your responsibility to prosecute them? Is it my responsibility to prosecute them? So you don't live here. Have you ever gone to a police station here? Go there and see what is happening. And then what amount of blame are you going to apportion to them? How much are they paid? Listen, if a stream is polluted at source, the pollution goes the entire length of the body of water. Nigeria is in stasis. People should not pretend that that's not the truth. That's the truth. And this road that has been festering for years cannot be halted in 1 month. But I have advice for Governor Soludo. He has to keep an eye on those he has deployed into this difficult task of containing insecurity state. In Nigeria, anybody who wears a uniform becomes a despot automatically. Vehicles are going, the uniform people, they are wielding horse whips and they're hitting cars, and is that how it should be? When you have discipline, which is not easy to inculcate, but when you have it, things will become better. You have to educate these people. You have to look at ways of making the circumstances of these people who are out there in the sun, in the rain, on a daily basis better, because they are also members of the society. Above everything else, you really have to operate with intelligence and technology. Most places you go to, I don't live in the US, but nobody can claim that I've not been frequenting the society until the flight ticket jumped overhead everybody. I know that most places you go to in the US, there are cameras, hidden cameras. You enter a shopping mall, and you have been filmed. On the road, you have been filmed. If you beat a traffic light, it takes your number and everything. Now, somebody goes to Oba, let's say, or Obosi, or Kija, to mention times that start with O. They raid a place, they drive away. There is no trace. How can? Okay. Now look at this gentleman, the legislator who died, who was kidnapped.
Okay, Azuka.
Yes, they said they paid 100 million. Still, they killed the young man. How come? You know, 100 million is, even if it is only 1 million. Which was the financial institution that through whom the 100 million passed to go to who? Nobody has told us the bank that was used. Nobody has told us who paid in the money. Nobody has told us who received the money. And look at that too. This is the real cliffhanger. 2 of those said to have been involved in the murder of this man are said to have disappeared from detention. Now, if somebody escapes from lawful custody, what do? You publish their photographs, you mention their names, so that people will be on the lookout for them. Isn't that so? If they took the money they got from the kidnapping and went and lodged in a hotel, perhaps a hotel cleaner or receptionist will say, this face be like, say, now the one that they put there, and you make a report. Now, we haven't seen the photographs of those people said to have escaped. We haven't had their names mentioned. Nobody has said at which police station they disappeared from. and the officers who were in charge. So why I'm pointing out all these things to you is just it's good to tell Governor Soludo to get his act together, but it's also important to know that the problem we are facing is multifaceted. That is the truth of the matter.
Mm. All right, we don't have much time anymore, but let me quickly get your view on the Biafran agitation. I know that when P2B was governor, you had to deal with MASSOB. And right now, where we are is totally different from where it was that time. What is your view on how things have developed?
Well, I think that there's a way our people put it. The more it is doing you, the more you will be shouting. To speak it in Igbo, but I just said it in English. When we were there, it was MASSOB. I do not recall a MASSOB delegation to Government House for all the years I was there. I do not recall a MASSOB order for seats at home all those years that I was there. So the scenario was completely different. It wasn't, people weren't going to bed apprehensive because of MASSOB at that time. So it's a different kettle of fish now. Things have changed. Yes.
Now, people point at the incident at Ezu River. Can you recall what happened there? And they said that was where things changed for the Biafran agitators. Do you remember what happened there?
No, I can't recall what happened at Ezu River. What is it?
No, they report that MASSOB members were killed by security people and dumped in the river during that period. And that was when most of them became more militants. That's what some people are saying. I wanted to know if you recall that incident in any way.
I do not recall that MASSOB became more militant. What I recall about MASSOB is that he died. In fact, I can't claim to have had a word, a whisper, or a whipper for Oyster Wazurike in many years, who was the leader of the MASSOB. So I don't see the link with this escalation that you are talking about. That is my own, what I know.
Mm. Now, what do you think about Nnamdi Kanu and his trial?
What I think about it is that there are different kinds of trials, Some people could see a trial as persecution. Some others could see it as prosecution. Others will see it as political. What I advocate is the rule of law. This guy who has been in detention, is it prison custody for many years now? Why are we not being told what is holding the determination of his case? You can also ask yourself another question. How come, is it a legal process that a judge that recused herself from a case is compelled to go back to that case? You have to ask yourself and see, are we following the law or are we following other than the law? We must have answers to questions like that. When we do that, it will help us to move forward.
Now, there were people who are blaming the leaders of the Southeast for not doing enough. Do you think there are things that they should have been doing or could do to help the situation?
I think I've said it before that people have a right to hold positions, and that however good you are, there are people who will see you as bad. Whatever enormity the badness is, there will be people who will see you as good. I've already mentioned that point, and I don't, I don't, I don't move ahead burdened by utterances by people. I have to look at every utterance in its own specificity before I take a decision. Now, if you talk about the Southeast leaders and others playing more significant roles, that means that you have come to the political aspect of the trial. It is possible for somebody with influence to say, halt this trial. I'll give you a recent example. You saw the book written by Dele Farotimi. You saw how it progressed. They went and seized him in Lagos, transported him to Ekiti State, filed cases against him. The man remained resolute. Today, are you still hearing about the court case? That's a political solution to it. Everything has a political situation, a solution. There have been many people who were detained in this country, extra-legal detention. Muhammadu Buhari, he was inside Islam for 3.5 years. It was Babangida who put him there. He sent a representative at Babangida's book launch. Buhari himself went about detaining people. He did it as a military dictator. He did it as a do you remember Colonel Dasuki? How many years did he languish in there? So all those things are there. The Yoruba traditional rulers, led by their foremost, one of their foremost, the Ooni of Ife, they went to Chief Afe Babalola, and the case died. Is that not a political solution? At least it has died for the present. It could resurface again. In fact, in terms of ideas, arguments, contentions it will generate, it's only started, but nobody's going to court again. And people have been saved from acute, irreversible embarrassment. That's what has happened. Now, this question you are talking about, the Southeast, our people do not all of our people, but some of the more vocal ones among us are not bothered about looking at the background of things. In this dispensation that we have, any Igbo person telling you he's influential in Abuja, tell him to find the address of a good psychiatrist. But any influence anywhere, they are barely tolerated. How many of them have access to wherever those people live or work to go and do what? That's the question. If you do not have it, it means that you don't have it. Where you don't have it and go about claiming that you do have it, you are living a life of let's pretend. You are deceiving yourself. A lot of these governors they are seeing are looking at the next gubernatorial election. If they upset the apple carts, will they be re-elected? Don't you know how elections go in this country? When we were kids, what they were saying is that women became pregnant with ballot papers. They stuff it in their tummies, and then they go and dump it there. And you read about the voter, one of Chinua Achebe's earliest short stories, how they did it in those days. Today, you will go and stand in the sun, you will go and stand in the rain, you will be flogged by all kinds of people. Some will be shot, some will be stabbed. At the end of the day, one man will just sit down somewhere and write results and announce it, and they'll tell you to go to court. If you know that that scenario is a possibility, you'll be doing everything you like, everything you believe will save you from being hit over the head when election time comes. That is why, for instance, you have people like one former governor who is in Abuja now, making all the noise, saying that it's not Igbo, it's not Igbo, it's not Igbo. It is in the scheme of things that if you distance yourself from the hated ethnic group, that hatred will not impact on you, or will not impact heavily on you. Do you understand? That was why people like Elechi Amadi, the writer, went about talking about being Ikore and not being Igbo. While he was doing that, there are people like Dr. Obiwale. There are people like Senator, what's his name now? Ella, who said, we are Ikore, but we are even Rotimi Amechi today. The truth is there, but they are trying to run away from the bludgeon of hatred. So when you have those people who are hated here, they are not entirely in the best position to go and influence any political decision on the Nnamdi Kanu case. That is the truth.
All right. Thank you so much, Chuks. Let's now go to our people who joined us to ask a question. Please, if I call on you, please find your best question. We've exceeded the time we agreed with our guest. So let's see. Michael Adeyo first. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor Rudolf, for allowing me again, inviting me onto your show. Mr. Chuck, I appreciate you so much. All the time you come here with some information, and I appreciate that. And first of all, I want to thank you for your loyalty, for your patriotism, being part of Newswatch, because that was my best subscribed news magazine when I was in Nigeria, because it has a lot of information. I don't know, maybe I've read a lot of articles in it. Part of it must be one of your own published articles and editorial version. My question to you, my statement first of all is about that 1966 group. And I think Rudolf have asked you the question that I wanted to ask, because when you read all about it, the execution part of that coup was found that it's mostly like the Igbo's army officers that carry out the execution. To a layman, to somebody like us, we think that it is Igbo or the people that perpetrate or organize it. But for your own assertion, for your own statement that you know the historical part, I agree with you, and I can say I can move forward now to understand who are the perpetrator, who was the planner for that coup. Because all my assumption when I read it, because I see somebody who killed, what do you call it, Akintoye, and all those people in the north, and then these Igbo army officers. So leave that up. My question to you now is this. What is the way forward for Nigeria today to remain a unified nation? Because the country itself has failed us. Because now we're looking about what is the way forward for us to come together as a nation. Because the country has failed us. We have different tribe and everything. So I want to listen to your opinion, your idea, and so give a take. And Rudolf, you can put me behind, because to allow other people to come in. Thank you so much, Rudolf. Appreciate you.
Okay. The answer to that question is this. If you want peace, prepare for justice. I know people say if you want peace, prepare for war. I'm saying that if you want an entity to be in peace, you must ensure that there's equity in that society. Treat Mr. A the way you treat Mr. Z. Don't make one woman a first-class citizen and make another man a 20th class citizen. Once you are doing those things, you will have peace, you will have unity. If your call card is nepotism, or tribalism, sectionalism, all those things, it will never create the ambience of peace. You guys will remember when President Buhari, newly elected, was asked about how he will work. And he said he will pay more attention to the people who voted for him. But he didn't contest election for people who voted for him. He contested to be the president of the country, but he settled on the injustice of those who voted for him and those who didn't vote for him. When you do that kind of thing, and when you say that the Igbo country is a dot in a circle, you are not promoting peace, except you are promoting the peace of the graveyard. So if you want peace, do not treat me better than you treat Rudolf, because I don't have two heads on my shoulders when he has less than one. We are all human beings. Let there be justice, let there be equity, let there be fairness, and then there will be peaceful reign.
All right. Thank you. Let's go to Dr. C. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a big pleasure to get to meet the legendary Chuks Iloegbunam, even if it is virtually. Chuks, you're a national treasure, and you have to know that. Many of us hold you in very high esteem for all the work you've done. Thank you so much. I'm a little bit late to this show, so I hope I'm not going to be repeating some of the things you guys said, but I wanted to chime in a little bit on the Nnamdi Kanu issue, because it speaks to a larger issue we have as a subnational entity. I'm talking about we the Igbo, the Southeasterners. In business, there's a saying that you don't really get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And if I extrapolate it to politics, I will make a statement that in politics, you don't get what you deserve. You get what your leverage gives you. Now, in Nigeria, the problem we have as Igbo is the fact that we lack that leverage. If you look at the three big subnational units, Yoruba, Igbo, and the Hausa Fulanis. Okay, take the Yorubas, for example. They control, we talk about the powerful legacy by the press. Even we could remember the days of Abiola and the rest of them, and how they fought the government and, tooth and nail all the way. So you can't afford to ignore them. The North is the same thing, the same way. They don't hold the press, but they, more than we give them credit, they are very, very politically conscious. You could even see it from the last election with the governorship in Kano State. If we all understood the body language at the time, you find out that, left for the APC government, Kwankwasa and his group wouldn't have been able to, maintain that position. I'm talking about the governorship election in Kano. But the federal government, they were able to read the handwriting on the wall that the kind of unrest that will ensure if they were to take away the people's mandate, it would have been terrible. Maybe it would have been so catastrophic that the whole country would be in turmoil. So those are the leverages we talk about. You can't mess with the Yorubas, you can't mess with the Hausas. But how about us, the Igbos? No. In Enugu State, for example, Labour Party won the Enugu State governorship election. But what happened? PDP did what they did, and then took the victory away. It was just robbery in plain sight. What did people do? It would just continue as business as usual, And that brings me to, and I'm going to be quick, and that brings me to the Labour Party and P2B, and I'm glad that Chuks is somebody who has worked very closely with P2B. P2B is the custodian of very huge mandate with very, very huge following. When you talk about Labour Party, that Labour Party is relevant today is because of the person of Peter Obi. Nobody will talk about the party without Peter Obi. But what we've seen is that with all the huge support that Peter and Labour Party got, many are disappointed by the fact that let's not even talking about the rigging at the center. Let's talk about those elections, those ones that were won by the Labour Party. Why was it that Peter Obi and Labour Party were not even able to protect the small mandate that was given to Labour? And I'll give you an example again with Enugu. Enugu, most of the legislative seats were won by Labour. In my local government, it was won by Labour. But what happened? PDP has clawed back a significant part of it, And you would expect that, at least there will be a significant protest or, with the kind of following he has that will galvanize the people and register, the anger of the people about what is happening. No, but that was not the case, So you have all these people that stuck out their neck and did everything to support the Labour Party. But the leadership of the party and the main guy who is basically what the party is all about was not ready to actually, do anything to reassure the people that even if in 2007, if you repeat the same thing, vote for him, that he's going to be able to protect the mandate. And I'm raising this again for you, Chuks, because I know you have the benefit of being able to have his ears. So what am I arriving at? If we have to make progress, as a people, of course, with Peter Obi being at the lead, there has to be a drastic change in his strategy. This idea of just, trying to be pacifist, it may work in some climes, but not in Nigeria of today. Power is not something that people give it to you. Like for you, if you're really going for power, then you'll be able to, you'll be willing to, almost give up, be able to give whatever it takes to be able to maintain that position. I don't know if maybe I'm not explaining myself well. But I think you guys got the drift.
Obviously, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right, Chuks.
Yes, what I would say is you explained yourself very well, but that has led me to thinking that I actually have some question to put to you, to pose to you. In what ways do you think P2B deserve to have responded to those stolen mandates that you mentioned?
Okay, thank you so much. I'm glad you asked. If not for anything, I could have expected him that he would lead a mass protest, to at least register, at least create a consciousness that, okay, this is exactly what happened, But none of those things happened. As a matter of fact, when some of his supporters tried to, raise the awareness and, make some demonstration, he quickly distanced himself and said he wants everything, So that's where people have a problem with him. Nobody's expecting him to, change to a military fatigue and start shooting, fighting or, with a gun and all those. No, but in the very least, you should be able to lead at least a mass demonstration and say, okay, this is what happened. This is our mandate that we already got that was stolen in broad daylight. Would that make things change? Probably, maybe not. But at least folks will see that at least you are ready and willing to at least stick out a little bit of your net. But if you're not even ready to, even be arrested, let alone get to jail, then I don't think that I don't think that you have the temperament. I don't think that you're ready to really take us to that finish line. We give him the credit that you've energized the base, created the consciousness, but you'll be willing to do more than that. Tinubu, who is now the president, we know how they fought with the Nadeko and all those things to protect them, Abiola's mandate, to the point that he went in exile. Okay, so we're expecting Peter to at least give us some reason to believe that it's not just going to be going to thank Babangida for the work he did, or praising Gowon for what he did. He has to show more leadership, that, okay, I am ready to protect the mandate if you guys give it to me. Otherwise, even if the next election everybody votes for him and they do what we know they're basically going to do, which is rig it, he will just sit down and say, oh, okay, try to be pacifist. That's my answer to that.
Okay, so let me now come in.
Okay.
In my view, the position taken by P2B is the best way to pursue this case. I commented on the Enugu gubernatorial election. I wrote an article on it. I can send it to you if you leave your. I can send it by WhatsApp to Rudolf, and he'll give it to you.
Sure.
But what I want to tell you is this: our people have a proverb. You stay in the house of the coward to be pointing to the ruins of the home of the hero or the valiant person. That's one point. Now, if you remember NSAS demonstration that was nationwide, and then Buhari sent troops to massacre people there because of demonstration. The Igbo people have already been called a dot in a circle, the dot in a circle. All these policemen, all these soldiers, less than 1% of them are from ethnic group. Those who are Igbos don't even have any seniority whatsoever. Once you bring them out for a demonstration, they begin to mow them down. The Lagos State governor instituted a public inquiry into the Lekki shootings. That panel gave the verdict that Nigerians were massacred there. The government of Lagos State rejected it. Say, where are the bodies? Later on, they saw evidence of the government's request for authority to bury most of those people that they killed and pack their bodies. I would not want P2B to lead a demonstration to say that he won the election. If he leads such a demonstration, even if the authorities don't deal with him, all those guys who were his opponents in the election, they're always having to.
All right. I think the connection, the internet with our guests has done well for almost 2 hours.
Okay. Those people who are killed, they will just go. The point is this: it has been registered. It is known that elections were rigged. And this thing didn't start yesterday. Did Rochas Okorocha win re-election? Did this man who is in say that did he win the election? The people who contested against him, none of them even bothered to go to court. Didn't you see what happened in Edo State the other day? I think there's something called the balance theory. If you don't have a chance in a combat, don't engage in it. Don't go out there on the streets to be mowed down by people who have been looking for a way to kill you because you want to make the point that you won an election. No. Even before the election was rigged, it was known that the election was rigged. The man who even won the election wasn't supposed to even contest because he didn't present his National Youth Certificate, National Youth Service Corps certificate. He didn't present it. All those things are in the Electoral Act and the Constitution. So it doesn't mean that every election must be led by, every demonstration must be led by the leader. Look at during the Cuban Revolution, Fidel Castro, Che Guevara, and all the rest of it. There were other demonstrations led by other people. It doesn't mean that if if I'm not at the head of demonstration in my family here, my wife cannot rise and say, you can't come and stay my husband's property. And my children can't pay, you can't come and take they'll be waiting for me. Am I the only person who sleeps or snores in this house? So why I'm telling you this is that it is not as easy as this is. Peter Obi disappointed them. They wanted him to cause an uproar so that they will more into the people. And he disappointed them. Because he is still there, he is pointing the path to us that is democratic. He went to court. Everybody has seen what happened now. The travesty. Everybody has seen the appointments of in the judicature now going on. Everybody sees all these things. You can't stay away from where it is happening, and then you say, go and go. Everybody knows what the voice.
All right. Thank you, Osi. Thank you.
Just one last thing. I won't take it. So, okay, Chuks. So my last thing, my last point, the last point I'm going to make is, you've talked about all those things. So my question is to you is, what is the way out? Are we going to just sit down and repeat exactly what happened in 2023 and do the same in 2027 and expect that things are going to change? Or are we just going to sit around the campfires, hold hand and sing Kumbaya?
What I know is this. A similar question will be asked of me before the break. I said, you must institute truth and justice if you want unity, and it also means if you want progress. People have been talking of electoral reforms. What this guy's name, Chief Chidoka, a politician who was Minister of Aviation at some point, he had brought out evidence to show that even with all this technology they introduced in elections, that the figures announced did not tally with what their machines showed. Meaning that at the top, these elections are being rigged. So the campaign now should be for proper electoral reforms. It will be for education of the people to fight for their rights. And when you are talking about demonstrations, a lot of people who are trying to go out there and demonstrate have not eaten. This bottle of water now, it used to sell for about 300 naira. By the time you go there now, they tell you to bring 2,000 naira. You don't have a job, and you go out there and go and demonstrate. That is why it's because of it's because people are in abject poverty that they are being manipulated. That is why you give them 50 naira and they go give them voting cards and they'll go and vote for it. Will be ended. It's not even end them a meal, and you wait for another election cycle. But the central point is education. And you guys, if I was abroad, hey, what I would have done with media, educate the people. You understand? Let them know how to fight for their rights, but let them also understand that there is no wisdom in exposing your chest to a trigger-happy person with the muzzle of his gun face to you. That is not wisdom.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Osi. Let's go to Mr. James. Welcome.
Hey.
We can hear you, Mr. James. We still can't hear you. Can you log out and log back in, and let's see if that will work. All right, let's go to Righteous Man. Righteous Man, you are on with Chuks Iloegbunam.
Yeah, good evening, Dr. Rudolf. Looking so handsome. I'm in Lagos, and it's the dark city, no electricity. And good evening to our guest, Elder Chuks. I appreciate you. I really love your explanation. I wouldn't want to lose Peter Obi like what happened to Ohi of Ohi, Chuka Okadibo. I wouldn't want what happened to Abiola to happen to Peter Obi. So respectfully, I love how he took his stand during that 2023 election. To be precise, I was a victim during that election. It was the finger of God. I escaped being macheted in the polling booth where I went to vote. And I called the radio station and I was given a live information of what was happening there. This is not what is written. It was what I saw, what happened within my own circle of casting my vote. And so Peter Obi took, if you were one of his advisors that told him not to go on the street to march, your advice was welcomed. And I'm part of those that said you did well. So my question, sir, I live in Lagos. I travel to the east. I do my business in Lagos. I have been a victim of this, is it checkpoint or choke point?
Yeah.
In the recent time, the intercity organization came to make a public announcement that a total of about 20 to 21 billion was extorted from the Easterners within a period of 2 months. And up to today, we are yet to hear from the Igbo elders. In response, we are yet to hear the Igbo elders calling the federal government to question not only 20 or 21 billion extorted, also had that 180 Easterners were gunned down. And the Igbo elite class have not laid their voice against what is happening. The recent 2025 federal budget, it is on record that there is no federal project in that budget allocated to the 5 eastern states, that is, they call Igbo states. And we are yet to hear the Igbo elite elders speaking out and asking why. Sir, why is this silent from the Igbo elders? Thank you.
Yeah. I've already answered that question. I said before that a lot of people know that the Igbo are a hated people, and if they don't want that hatred to rub off on them, they go into silence mode when something comes up that they should speak about. That's one of the answers. 2, on a general level, the level of influence or leverage that the Igbo people have in the political calculations of today is very little indeed. Thirdly, a lot of those people who you say are leaders don't have the people's mandate. So to start with, defending your interest is not their business, because you didn't elect them to begin with. Their ears are open to the sayings of those who put them in power, and that is why it is like that. And also, this is very, very important. The protest against injustice do not only come from the mouth of the elders or the political appointees. Everybody has a right to say, this is wrong, stop doing it. This is unfair, don't do it. It's not only the elites that can do that,
All right. Thank you, righteous man. So let's take a question from the comment section. This one is from AY for real. It says, in what ways did Ojukwu contribute to the civil war? If you were in his position, what different actions would you have taken to avert the war?
Well, as far as I know, Ojukwu wasn't the aggressor. Biafra didn't attack Nigeria, as far as I know. That's one point. Secondly, when they were in search of peace, he went to Aburi for peace, to go and seek peace. And they even agreed there that violence should not be used to settle the crisis in the entity at that time. So to that extent, you say that he had done something tangible to see that it didn't end up in a warfare. Also, there is an international dimension to all of these things. People hardly look at Britain or Whitehall, as they call their government, the role they played in all of these things, the kind of counsel they were giving to Lagos at that time. All those things exacerbated the problem in the entity at the time. So, if you wanted him to say he didn't want a war, maybe at that first time he would have said, no, well, just surrender and wait and then let them come and occupy everywhere. Maybe that's what he could have done. But as far as I know, as far as the history, in fact, this one happened in front of my eyes, not be saying a history. He wasn't the great, he didn't attack Nigeria. And that's what I have to say to that question.
All right. Thank you so much. Before I bring in two more people who are here, I know we've exceeded our time. Let me ask you a question. That when you were talking, you talked about something you said, if you don't have a chance in a combat, don't go into it. Something like that. Somebody might listen to you and say, did the Biafrans, when they went to that war, did they have a chance of winning? Why did they go into it?
Yes, I would say that when they went into that war, they thought they had a chance. They thought they had a chance when they went into that war. And actually, the reversal in the war came from what happened at Ore, when they were already marching towards Lagos. That was where the reversal came. So you could think that you have a balance, only to discover later that you miscalculated. You could say you have a balance and then you are correct, but I didn't think Ojukwu believed that the war would end the way it did. That was why he was saying, even at that time, if you remember, that if Biafra was attacked, even the grass will fight. He was saying that and all the rest of it. So that's a fact of history now.
All right. Thank you. Let's go to Mr. James. Let's see if we can hear him. James, go ahead. Okay, James, we can't hear you. Let's go to Okija. Okija. Yeah, James, I'm sorry. Your connection has problems today. Okija, you're next.
Hi, good day, everyone. Oga Chuks, thank you for coming. I appreciate what the answers you have given today. But on a lighter note, what I don't like, is talking to Chelsea fan, telling them, their wound. That's not fair. But anyway, okay, I want to say something about, just the question Rudolf asked you and you answered. He said, when they went into that war, we didn't go into the war. Igbos were attacked. They had to defend themselves. So it's not like, that we plan to attack. We plan to go to war. So that's what happened. We had to defend ourselves. So it wasn't like, we went to war. But okay, so I want to ask a question on, journalism in Nigeria, because I remember when growing up in Nigeria, I used to read News Watch and other magazines. But I know the quality has deteriorated a lot. But when I moved to US, I found out that they don't really have mass communication departments. What they do, you see journalists in US, they specialize in area. You see someone in agriculture. He goes to school for agriculture. Then he becomes a reporter. He deals agriculture. In Nigeria, it's difficult. We don't see things like that. We see just people go to mass communication. They believe they can communicate anything to everyone, and they just start communicating. That's our question. Do you think that we need to improve, make journalism look like the way it's done in the US? And also, just a comment on Dele Giwa. I don't know if you heard it, but I read a report. Someone the investigation. They said it was Professor Samoji, an engineer, in Enugu, that he built the balloon that they used, to kill to buy Dele Giwa. So I don't know if you have any comment.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. About the engineer or the OG you called, are they those people who are saying that? Are they saying that if you know this thing they call AK-47 automatic Kalashnikov? That gun was designed by Mr. Kalashnikov. That's his name. The gun was named after him. So any place someone is shot dead by with an AK-47, the man is to blame. Is that what you're telling me? So the question
Yes.
of who primed the bomb that killed Dele Giwa, who didn't prime it, or who built it is neither here nor there. You understand? It's the person who wielded, who commanded the act that bears the responsibility. That's one. You talked also about journalism. As far as I know, if you went into journalism, you took a basic background course that taught you about reportage and commentating and analysis and all the rest of it. It's in later stages, classes, that you begin to specialize. There are the people who want to report judiciary. You have a special lexicon for that. There are people who want to report aviation. You have a special register for that. You train basically, then you go to advanced courses, or even in your office. I started as a sports writer, writing about Rangers International and Police of Senegal and all the rest of it. I'm saying that because you mentioned Chelsea. My son is Chelsea, and he tried to remove me from Rangers International and to put me in Chelsea. I don't know the percentage of success he has registered so much, but I would say that when you take everything into consideration, we still have in the media immediate reportage of news of events in the society. But with all those things that are being reported, you have a lot of falsehood. With all those things that are being reported, sometimes analysis becomes scarce. Sometimes disinformation moves in. All those things are there. That is why if you are listening to people like now, or you are reading the newspaper, or you are listening to a broadcast, you also use your own judgment to know what you're going to take or what you're not going to take.
All right. Thank you so much. Please pardon me, Oga Chuks. Let's get two of our very prominent contributors here to weigh in. Then we can round up. So KJ, you're next.
Thank you so much, Oga Chuks. I have thoroughly enjoyed your contributions and your wealth of understanding of the politics in Nigeria. And I think that we should make most of what you publish available to, Ndi Igbo especially, because some of us do not have a handle of what, played through. And I also want to commend the newspaper, the Newswatch. I was in secondary school. I have quoted him here before. A prominent government teacher used to give us a lot of essays to go read Newswatch and come and explain what we have read. So it was quite one of the things we use in building up our understanding of government and how government functions. Thank you so much. Yes, I'll just have to ask maybe just one question. And will you say, because of your knowledge of understanding what has played out, will you say that the hatred of Ndibo came because of the Civil War? Because some historians will have said that that's not where it started. It started a long time ago. And so if you can give us a bit of an understanding of what really led to this hatred that now our so-called leaders in the East are distancing themselves from when they have to speak on behalf of the Igbos. That's one. Secondly, I'm sorry, I got about two questions. I'm gonna say because I have to say log. What are we going to do? Do we just fold our hands until the day that the East is pointed as a place where nobody now lives? Because the plan will to run over the East. So I can see that again Luziog, so that we just wait for them to do as they like, ravage the East, or what is the way forward for Ndibo? Thank you so much, sir.
But the hatred of Ndibo started well before the war. And the explanation is easy. In terms of population, it's rational to say that the Igbo ethnic group is the largest in the country. We've never had any real scientific census exercise in this country. And you know, the Igbo people travel out of their home region to other places. They go to other places, they build homes. There are a lot of Hausa people in the Igbo country. I've not seen up to 5 houses they built here. But we go to my brother went to Lagos on transfer from Onitsha. He got there. He went to look for a house and they told him how much he was going to pay. And he said, what for? He went and stayed with my cousin and go and bought a bit of land and built his own house in that Lagos. That's the way our people do. So when you have a people who are moving forward, acquiring property, getting rich against all odds, it invariably elicits envy and jealousy. That's how it is started. Now you saw what happened in during the last presidential election, where people are saying that the Igbo in Lagos should go. They shouldn't vote. Some were even attacked. It is because they have their population there. They have their own choices. They are not going to be told into voting for who they don't want to vote to. And so that hatred manifests. So it was there before the war. It is still there. What you will know is this. It is prominent now because people who are perpetrating it are looking at a lodestar. If you have a no-nonsense person who will not tolerate that kind of nonsense, it will diminish. That is the truth. Now, to the second part of your question, it is natural to want to live. It is natural to protest your decapitation. It is natural to defend yourself. What you have to do in a society where it is established that you are not the most loved specimen is to prevent yourself from open-eyedly walking into a landmine. Do not do it. When there's the way you live in talk, they say you are raising an army, and then you are in soup. So you will continue to follow the path of peace. You will continue to work for unity. You will continue to campaign for people to see reason. And you will say that if you don't want me to move forward and you don't want me to move backward, at least give me a leeway to go home. Those ones are matters of common sense.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, KJ. Let me now get Ike. You may have the final question. Oh, I saw Igbo Basics. Ike, go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. From here, my name is Ike Alamefle. Thank you for your services in the print world and in the government. And I've been listening. I'm in the office, but I've been listening your conversation with my brother Rudolf, and I just want to thank you for your deep knowledge of what is going on in Nigeria, and most importantly, Igbo.
Thank you.
My question goes to, I want to be political. My question is about the Southeast. The governors of the Southeast presently as it is. What do you think that is the role of the governors of the Southeast in maintaining law and order and security in the Southeast? Because I am asking this question, I find most of the governors as culprit to the situation that is going on in the Southeast. And I have to be specific because I'm from Imo State. The governor of Imo State who never won an election, Supreme Governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodimma, and people like former Governor Omahi. And I'm also allegedly suspecting the governor of Anambra State because we saw him when he was coming in as somebody who knows his onion, somebody who knows what administration and government is all about because of his, economic ideas as an intellectual. But he has become a complete failure to my own understanding. And as an Igbo man who love my people, I don't think that he deserves a second term. So my question is, what role do you think that the governors of Eastern Nigeria is playing concerning the insecurity in Nigeria and concerning the continuous incarceration of Nnamdi Kanu presently as it is? Thank you, sir.
All right, Chuks, before you answer, let me just say that there are several questions that people want to ask that have been, these questions have been answered before. I know most people come in late. Okay. So don't, like on the comment section, they don't know, and I feel sorry about that, but we don't want to...
Repetition, okay.
Yeah, Chuks, go ahead. Any way you can summarize that, so we go to the last question.
Okay, sorry for that.
No, it's okay, it's okay. It's not your fault. I know, I understand.
Yeah, I don't know what... no, I can't say exactly what each governor in the Southeast state is doing in terms of security. All I can say is that a governor is the chief security officer of his own state. But also he has some handicaps in terms of the fact that the security men in his state do not take orders from his government house, they take orders from Abuja. You don't have state police, what you have is the federal police. You don't have a state or zonal military, what you have is the federal military. They are under the command of the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. So, to that extent, you cannot be sure of what each or any particular governor is doing. You will find it out from the reports that you read or from the experiences you live in any state in question. That is really the way it is. I have talked about the Nnamdi Kanu thing, and I said there is what you call legal prosecution. There's what you call legal persecution. There is what you call political adjudication. And I gave those instances. And I also ended by saying that the Igbo country doesn't have enough leverage in the current political dispensation to effectively influence anything in terms of the continued detention of Nnamdi Kanu. I said that before and I have repeated it now.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Our last question will come from Igbo Basics. Igbo Basics.
Mazi Chuks Iloegbunam, good evening or good afternoon, whichever one.
Good evening. Good evening.
There we go.
Thank you.
But my question is not going to have anything to do with politics. It will not have anything to do with the Biafran war or any of those things. I see that you had a stint at the Guardian newspapers.
Yes, I did.
Okay, so I wanted to use that opportunity to extend courtesies to our good friend Goli Udaja.
Yes.
whom you know, of The Guardian.
I don't.
All right. So I also wanted to use that opportunity to pay tribute to Dimba Igwe, the journalist.
Yes.
Let Dimba Igwe.
Yes.
And I also wanted to bring my question to, I'm sure at your age, you are aware of the Ngwa Road dance. Because when they talk about Ngwa Road in Aba,
Yes.
and the things that happen there. And we know very well that when people talk about the Ngwa Road dance, as I call it, the ovation seems to be loudest. But when people talk about great journalists like yourself, like my good friend Rudolf Okonkwo here, and the rest of the people who have been toying in this labor of love called journalism, even though today everybody now is a journalist because computer senior typewriter. And because of the fact that everybody now has a cell phone, everybody is a photographer. But still, the skills that people like you come along with, it takes me back to the great job of the people who stand on their shoulders to where we are today. By that I mean, I'm going to compare and ask a question of why is it that we from the Eastern Zone, when I refer to the activities of people like Nnamdi Kanu, whom you are aware of his role in the industry, as compared to the activities of Olabisi Ajala, whom you are also aware of his activities, they were treated very differently. And you know very well that Olabisi Ajala, they used to say, Ajala travels all over the world, not knowing that it was on the shoulders of Nnamdi Kanu, but Olabisi Ajala rose to fame out of Hollywood. Having said all that, my concern is that from the springs of those Nnamdi Kanu nightclub, Okonu's club, came the great ones like James Iroha. And then we have people like James Abudaya, Okorigwonwobe. Let me just run straight to that. Today we all sing, and it's of concern to me, and I wanted you to share with us, because one day you will go, I will go, Rudolf will go, Zebi is still here with us, Clarus is there in Aba, almost blind. The question I have is this, and Zebudea will be celebrating his 75th birthday anniversary on this 10th of June. And he is out of the Eastern stock. With all this our noise about Igbo this, Igbo that, we are big, we have this, we have that. Why is it that we, as a people, cannot necessarily honor our own while they are still alive? And then we allow them to languish almost in penury. And you are aware of what happened to James Iroha during his time, that nobody actually came to his help. Is it because we are traders? Or is it because Aba people and Coal City people are not able to articulate what do we do? Because Chuks Iloegbunam, one day, with all the great work you've done, one day we shall also come to pass. It pains me that what can we do to actually celebrate this our people? Just yesterday, Babangida here, Babangida there. People throwing billions here, billions there, because a biography was written on Babangida. When the book of Zebudea, the man and legend of the New Masquerade, comes out later on in the year, what can you, as somebody who has been in the field, do now to prepare for when that book comes out? We are not competing with Babangida this, Babangida that. But I'm saying, what can we, as a people, besides all our big noise about our money holders, our name it, we have them. What can we do to sensitize and bring them to help so that we can celebrate you and people like Zebi while he's still alive?
Thank you. This question is very important. But what I have got to say is that things are beginning to change. 2 weeks ago, I was in Enugu where we went to launch a new book on Ojukwu, who dealt with his years in exile, 12 years in exile in Cote d'Ivoire. I published the book. It's written by a Guardian colleague of mine, Kana Sinolo. It was a big occasion. If you look back at what's going on in Enugu now, the Rangers International Football Club is being celebrated. A book has been written on Christian Chukwu. A documentary has been done on their exploits. If you look at Celeste Noku, the daughter, with people like Chief Ben Etiaba, they have done a documentary and they resuscitated his name and they are promoting it. So these things will continue to go on. It's a gradual process. You could say, you could say the Iboman who donated 500 million naira at the launch of General Babangida's book may wish to bring out 10 million and promote the celebration of Chief Zebudaya Okorugbemu, who is Chikapa, is a personal friend of mine. There are many other people who can contribute to that kind of thing. We have people who have money, we have people who have vision. Your vision can link up with finance, and will rise. Those of you who are in America, even have the leverage. If you bring out $1 now, you have got 1,000 this thing. You aggregate, you have to promote those things and all the rest of it. And that is the way I see it to go. But as I said, your question is a very, very, very fundamental one. You can't leave the foundations of your society to disappear. That was why I went into the publishing of biographies. I'm waiting for. I wrote the biography of Professor Green Wonko. They're all there. Those are for people to read and learn. There are many other people. Where is the biography of Dr. Pius Okibu? Have you asked yourself that? And many other prominent men from all over. We have to continue to encourage this kind of thing to go on. So I must thank you for your question. It is, and thank all of you. I'm not in summation. It's for Rudolf to conclude, because I believe that we have tried.
Yes, we've done very well. Thank you, Igbo Basics. Let me say this before we conclude. This question by Igbo Basics is at the core of some of the issues that bother most of us. I went to the funeral, not the funeral, but it's celebration of life of Professor Ifemesia here in New York. He died last year, December, at the age of 99. And when I wrote a profile of him, kind of a tribute to him, people were calling me from all over the world. Oh, we didn't know he was still alive. And it's always painful that our people don't remember people. They don't even check on their teachers. You have to start from people who made you. People who, like you, Chuks, the contribution you made to knowledge, people who have been reading what you were writing, people don't celebrate, don't even ask about people like that, It's a terrible thing, and it doesn't help us to, especially people who are in the industry where you are not there because of the money. It's something that we should discuss in details one day. But thank you so much, Chuks. If you have any final thoughts, if you have, but I'm saying to people, another thing we could do, because I've been showing you guys the books that he wrote, you can support the work he's doing by buying the books and reading it. They are very important books. When it pained me, we are talking about Babangida's book. If you read all these books, they've already talked about some of these things, but most people are not reading it. Humphrey Nwosu wrote a book about June 12th, and everything that Babangida is talking about, they're out there. but people didn't read it, people didn't buy it. So how do you learn? Anyway.
Rudolf, I would subscribe to buy a book of Chuks Iloegbunam. If you know how I can get it, please get it to me.
Amazon. It's on Amazon. I just shared the link. You can
Great.
just go to Amazon.
I will buy one, but I will also ask that Chuks Iloegbunam, through you, if he can give his information to you, that I'll be able to contact with him. That would be great.
All right. Thank you, Igbo Basics.
And this is the book on MASSOB you were asking me about that you haven't seen. Okay. I'll find a way to get one copy to you. MASSOB, Journey from Medicine to Theater Arts.
Thank you.
All right. So, Chuks, final thoughts.
If you don't mind, sir, I will also ask that you do a good biography of all your life works, everything that you have done, so that we can have it as something to keep. We just can't get it and keep. So some of these things we'll use it as Bible. When somebody is talking about this, it's okay. Bring your own. Let me bring my own. So we refer to it. It becomes a referral point. I mean, you have so much that we need to make sure that it's in documentary form in one way or the other. I'm not saying. I mean, tomorrow is this thing. As a Aneku, I mean, we are putting bridges out. If you don't have a referral point, you don't know where the rent start beating you. I mean, because these days, like I said, people don't read any longer. When we were in secondary school, they make us go read news.
All right, thank you, KJ. Chuks, final words before we close. We take a break.
Well, final words. Thank you to all of you, Rudolf, and all the contributors, the participants. It's been a good 3 hours, short of a few minutes. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate you. And we will take a break. When we come back, we do a quick recap. But thank you, Chuks, for joining us. And maybe next time you have a new book, we're always here. We would like to have you come in and talk about it, So thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I have nothing new to say.
People are hungry.
Let them die. It's their fault. Yeah, I'm supporting Tinubu 100%.
You're supporting Tinubu?
100% to deal with Nigerians.
Jeez.
People like you. So that when next election comes, I will now see whether when people bring money, you will vote for them or you will do your conscience.
Believe. As far as I'm concerned, the Igbos will be treated as an equal citizen in this country. There will be no second-rate citizens in Nigeria unless by their own behavior and performance. And this applies to any Nigerian whatsoever. The head and the heart is the only yardstick which can judge who will be a second-rate citizen. Therefore, the Igbos have got nothing to be afraid of. They can rest assured that they have got a part to play in rebuilding the new Nigeria which has just been born. Let them come. Let them join hands with us, wherever they are, and appeal to them, the Igbos at home, in areas now being liberated, to Igbos abroad, to Igbos everywhere, not to listen to the propaganda of foreign press or propaganda of people who really do not care for their welfare. The only thing is to sort of see that they continue to resist or to continue to cause trouble and continue to cause and continue to suffer without really bothering about their own fate, except to praise them wishy-washingly. I don't know for what purpose. So the Igbos have got nothing to be afraid as far as we are concerned. Let them come home. Let them return to the fold. I have given them my word of honor. There will be amnesty for anyone who cares to come back. And with that, I'm quite convinced if they're prepared, to play their part, to play, their role properly, I think we can rebuild a new Nigeria where no man will be oppressed.
General.
Chukuna malugo yobia diocha Agaranya chogo kowe bili Agaranya chogo kowe rienio Owe chuku bezie chuku Nuche chukwa busigi fegemeo Nuche chukwa busia ifegemeo Nifo solo ne asi alibazie Oboye bebe agaranya muliba Oboye wuru agaranya mebi vesolea Mano agaranya mua Oboye afiozi enipa kwa Agaranya chogo kowe bili Agaranya chogo kowe rienio Oboye chikubezi olisa Kodili ma kodili bemo Kodili wakema kodili wanima Naino kwane we peluge peluo Kodili ma kodili bemo Kodili kemo kodili heyo Ibedwe me wane Nikadiezi bohimo Nekwekwe kona bia Nanya na kebe Nekwekwe kona bia Ebem jelu ekweje Gwanu mi femgeme Umuwa watanu Gwanu mi femgeme Ejim gugwo Ejim gugwo Ejim gugwo Ejim gugwo Ekwe Ekwe mbadike ekwe Ekwe mbadike ekwe anọkwa mbeme ijelubia anọkwa mbeme ijelubia iwe bụ akpa ego ebia iwe dokwasị m n'ụkwụ iwe na yom weju iwe na-ebe akwa ị na-ebe akwa onye na-eti gị ekwe mbadike ekwe onye ibe m na-ewe iwe nya biko wee gbuo ya ọsụkọsụ nwamkpi nya biko sugbuo ya Onye ife m na-ewe iwe nya biko wee gbuo ya ọsụkọsụ nwamkpi nya biko sugbuo ya selense
Onye ọma zoro bio akwa nwa zoro bio Max ịbịa bunyego kwanu m n'ofube n'azụ ụlaga n'ịbịa zugo mmanwụ ụlaga do n'ịbịa zugo akwa nwa ilochi yo biko rapụ zoro ka ọ nabazi ya Onye ọma zoro biko abọmma watara ndasari Mazi welcome Odoguno Kwerezu Nanka Onyoma Niga Delemo Mazi Nigazi Ibu go with the melody. Odogu nachala noka Ezi wane mliga delemo Olagado ni pezigono Ma olagado ni pezigo Amama mwilo chilo Nikora muzoro Anabazi Te Onyama zoro Sorry, if you want to go on a Molaga, don't need Piazugo, Nazaboy. Molaga, don't need Piazugo. I'm a Milo Chilo, Biko Rapuzoro, Anabazi. I don't can be kitchen for. Ama kwa mnika kugogia Waligwe kwelo Ikejo mabele begia Hey, you want?